to Red Hoop Talk. I'm Roy, and this is...
Oh, I'm over here.
You're over there.
Hey, Roy. I'm Shannon O'Loughlin, and I am a citizen of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma.
And I'm a citizen of the Adayas Caddo Nation of Louisiana from Shreveport area.
And we're happy to bring you another episode 40, by the way, episode 40 of Red Hoop Talk. Now, with this 40, that's a big number, episode, we really need you to like and comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Because after all, this is brought to you by the Association on American Indian Affairs.
Did you forget?
Is that your baby?
You don't even know what he's yelling at me right now.
What is he yelling at you right now?
He's in the bathroom.
Oh.
And I think his mom's asleep on the couch. She was watching a movie and fell asleep. So I'm being hailed. Do you mind if I step out?
I think that's kind of an emergency, Roy.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Like, go. So, and great. We get to look at Roy. I'm going to bring that down. Not that you have to, now you have to look at my big old head in this thing, but welcome everyone to Red Hoop Talk. You know me, and I'm coming to you from the original homelands of the Piscataway people, and we're really glad to be with you this week. There's been so much going on in Indian country, mostly good things. It looks like our new friend, President Biden, has removed the Andrew Jackson picture from the Oval Office. And if you remember, our previous presidential gentleman who was there before Biden had actually brought in the Navajo code talkers to take pictures and do media in front of the big picture of Andrew Jackson. So now that's gone. It's been removed. And we're happy to...
So that's a true story.
Yes. Well, now we want to hear about the poop story that was just happening.
I didn't say anything about her being
Well, there was something bathroom related.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway.
This is a 4-year-old. So 4-year-old who was yelling from the bathroom, and that's why.
Yeah. Oh boy!
All right. What else? So I was starting to talk about the news.
Did we? First of all, thank the first people of California upon whose land we stand, and
I already did that.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I wanted to just say that.
Quick, but thank you for doing that. We want to recognize the land that we're on and remembering the
first people,
the original caretakers.
Yes.
Welcome everyone who's joining us in the chat room.
Welcome chat room. Welcome.
Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Please, wherever you're watching from, look for us on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us monetize this and help us produce more and better. Yeah.
And follow the Twitters. Make sure you're following the Twitters. Like, comment, and subscribe.
All right. What else is going on, Roy? What's going on?
Well, you were talking about the the pictures coming down. Now, we were just talking about that a second ago in the green room, but I didn't know that there was verification of that.
I'm showing you.
Tell him to come on.
Come here. You want to say hello to everybody? He wanted to show me the picture that he just drew me.
Picture. Aww.
He makes his little peoples with no bodies. They're just heads and arms.
That's
and
all you need. That's all you need.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Bye.
Okay, take this out there to your mother. Wake her up. Tell her it's time.
Oh.
Would you close that door, please? Thank you.
see, my son is 14. So when he comes in, he's just like shouting like, "Hey, boomer," or something like that.
Or he comes in the chat room every now and then too, and drops a couple of troll comments.
I actually think my husband is doing that now. That's Christoph. That's
there he is, and ring that bell. Smash the like button.
Oh, that's what that means.
Smash the likes.
So Bernie memes are all over Indian country. Bernie's been making Indian country happy for many, many years, and now with his wonderful mittens from Vermont, is doing some more of that. I've seen
him like sitting in the middle of or I saw a lady was talking about who is that guy? Jerry Springer. She was on Jerry Springer. They were going back and forth like, oh, so you cheated on him and this and that and the other, and the baby's not his, and blah blah blah. And then when they panned over to the two of them, the guy sitting in the middle was Bernie sitting there. Just like. Oh. So and then my favorite is the one on the mat though, when he's got the guy in the arm bar and he's laying on the mat like breaking the guy's arm in the UFC fight. That was a really good one. Yes. Bernie gets an arm bar. Oh, so
Lance wants to know what we label our Red Hoop Talk
radio. Yeah. You could call it a live stream. Live stream is really like the technical term for what it is that we do now. So you can call it live stream.
Well, and now that Larry King has passed on, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
Maybe there's an opening for us, Roy. So, what do you think?
Taking Larry King's spot.
Why not? You could be the next native Larry King.
The next native Larry King, huh?
Tenders, you'll be great.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that happened. What else happened? Oh, who's the baseball player that passed on this week?
Hank Aaron. What's that? Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my God, he was like 88 or something like
that. He was old, but not like. Well, I guess that's like. I mean, what do you call what's like old? I mean, as I'm getting older, it's not old no more. It's like.
Wait, let me ask my
80's not that old no more.
I'm telling you.
60 definitely isn't old. 60 used to be like ancient, and now it's like, 60 ain't old. And he died at 70. Oh, that's so young.
What's Indian old? So this is what Indian old is. So I love the stories that talk about that, and they always start off. The story was told by an old Indian, so old it was hard to tell whether they were a woman or a man. They were so old. So that's how old. That's old.
Dad,
you can't even tell.
You're supposed to tell he's not waking up.
Okay.
And our other special guest for tonight is.
I'm just going to bring him on stream and we can talk to him. He's got a lot to say. This evening.
Well, maybe he'll have some great questions for our guest as well.
Yes, let's talk about our guest. We have an artist.
Yes, we do. An artist and a very, very smart woman. Don't mess.
So she's a lawyer too, then?
No, she's not a lawyer.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe if
you smart woman.
She was a smart artist. So I figured maybe she must have been one of your lawyer friends also.
No, she is one of my. Thank God she's not one of my lawyer friends. But her name is DEBRA YEPA-PAPPAN, and I love to say her name, YEPA-PAPPAN. She's from the Pueblo of Jemez, and she also is of Korean descent. And she is an artist herself, and we're going to learn more about the type of artwork that she does. But she's also a community engagement coordinator with one of my nemesis, the Field Museum, which is a very large colonial museum in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And let's bring Deborah up. bring Deborah up. There's Deborah.
Deborah Yepa-PAPPAN. How you doing?
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Now that's your hyphenated name, or that's your whole last name?
It's hyphenated. So yeah.
That is cool that it goes together like that, huh?
Right? Yeah, I know. That's why I picked them.
Hey, goes good.
That's my last name.
So can you say it, Roy? I want to hear you say it.
Yepa-PAPPAN.
There you go. See?
I'm on.
It's very easy.
It great.
It like just kind of rolls off the lips like butter.
Yep, exactly. It's like butter.
So you're Deborah, you're in Chicago right now, right? Or are you kind of outside of Chicago?
No, I am in the city of Chicago in the metropolitan area in Albany Park. This was traditionally the homelands of the Potawatomi, Ojibwe, Odawa, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Miami, and so many others that had, called this place home and have, passed through and had relationships with the people that lived here and relationships with the land, and we're right by Lake Michigan. So, definitely a relationship with the water here too. And I believe the neighborhood that I'm in, I'm just a few blocks from where there was evidence that there was an actual village that was here, because I'm right by one of the branches of the Chicago River. So there very well could have been, there could have been a native home right here. There's a contemporary native home right here now. So this is where I live. So yeah, I'm in the city.
Yeah. Wow. And how long have you been in Chicago?
Pretty much the majority of my life. I've been here since I was about 1.5 years old. And just, resided in Chicago. I love that. I see, this is real time, folks. This is real. This is reality. But yeah, I've been in Chicago my whole life, but, I maintain a very, very strong connection to my homelands in Jemez, Pueblo, New Mexico.
Yeah. So do you get to go, well, I'm not right now, but do you get to go a lot back to Jemez?
Yeah. Growing up, my dad and I and my mom, I remember us, getting tickets for, the Trailways bus. And we would go downtown to downtown Chicago, hop on, the Trailways bus and take that all the way to New Mexico. I think it was it took at least 2 days, I think, to get there in those times. I just remember it stopping, everywhere along the way. And so we made that, as a regular thing. We went back home because my dad, Jemez was his first language, and, he's very closely connected with his family. So he made sure to take us. And so then when I got older and, I went to school at IA in Santa Fe, so that was a way for me to kind of stay connected. And then I had my family, and once my daughter, after she was born, we've pretty much taken her back to Jemez every year of her life, except, of course, this past year, there's no opportunity. So I'm a little homesick in that way, because we haven't been home all year.
And where is, I'm getting some feedback, Roy. Oh, maybe not. Can you tell us where the Pueblo is, where y'all are in New Mexico?
So I would say that Jemez is about 40 miles north of Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not good at mapping or anything, and then too, I think my video is reversed, so I would be telling you the completely wrong direction.
Yeah, you need to be there, and then you know where things are, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
The best thing about New Mexico is the chilies, I gotta say.
What, the people? What about the people? What about the culture? You're going to say the chili?
You eating the chili?
Of course I've eaten the chili. I've eaten
New Mexico chili? No.
I've had much more fun with the people and
Don't go there with me. I'm talking
places
about chili.
in
I'm
New
talking about the
Mexico.
greatest chili on the planet is in New Mexico. New Mexico green chilies are the greatest chilies on the planet. If you haven't had them, you need to have them. It's not chili in a bowl chili. It's chili, green chilies that are like the Hatch chilies that are
Right.
phenomenal. Right. And now they sell them all over because now you can go once a year and go get them roasted. And what, you don't like my conversation right now? You're looking at me like, what are you talking about?
I'm down with it.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
New Mexico green chilies are. I mean, I always have some frozen in my. I just took some out and made. We make a certain sauce with it every year and all the time, and I mean, there's nothing that tastes better than those things. I mean, they're just, you can't get them anywhere else. You can't. No Anaheims, nowhere else can beat those New Mexico chilies. You got to get them every year. So if you haven't had Hatch green chilies from New Mexico, you got to get yourself some.
I'm with you there. I made some quiches yesterday and put some green chili in those. And yeah, I mean, I have a freezer full of green chili. You got to put them on everything. Pizza, you know. Grilled cheese sandwiches.
Like the McDonald's out there even has like a burger that they put the chilies on, right?
Oh, you can go anywhere in New Mexico to a restaurant and ask for green chili.
And they'll put green chili on anything.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now back to the show.
Well, there's been, it's January. It's still like what is it? What is the Indian name for it called? Eat a lot after and don't stop after Christmas or the first of the year. Just keep eating until the sun comes up at some point. So that's what Indian time of the year is. It's time to eat right now, right? Time to eat, hang around the house, tell stories, and just eat. Is anyone else doing anything different with their life right now besides eating and staying inside?
See, I'm working and I'm really, really like, just every day is like a test of bravery, because it's like, who am I going to have to run into today? How many people are going to be in the office today? Who's going to, it's just, I mean, we're all masked and we have some very strict rules at work, but my work is actually, we have a handful of essential employees that are still working. Everybody else is at home. Mm-hmm. So we've been having like little blocks of cases in different departments. Like our whole HR department got quarantined for 2 weeks because one of them had COVID and then the rest of them had to get quarantined. So we've been losing departments like that for the last couple months, and it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. And now the whole vaccine thing is a big mess too, because so my grandfather, who I was with yesterday, I talked to both of you guys, he's 92, Native, and I can't get him on the list for the website is like really messed up for getting people on the list to get the COVID shot. And he wants it because he won't even open his front door now. He's just like, I don't even open the door. The neighbors will come over to check on him, see how he's doing, and he won't even answer the door. So I want to try and get him a shot, but I can't get him on the list. It's really messed up right now. Wow.
So. Well, I know. I don't know what it's like in New Mexico or Deborah, or what you've heard about folks back home. From what I've been hearing in Indian country, there's been just a really strong movement to get.
Yeah, didn't Navajo get a bunch of vaccines to Navajo land?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still more to come, and I think there's tribes that aren't. They're like, we're waiting. They don't have enough. They need more.
They're saying in the next couple of weeks they should have the single vaccine out now, so you don't have to get the double.
Yeah.
The next couple of weeks, they said it's like almost ready. Then they should have the single vaccine.
How are things back home, Deborah?
Well, I know that Jemez was on like this total lockdown for most of the pandemic. So basically, if you didn't live there, then you weren't allowed to come in. And so they had like one checkpoint, so one point where, residents can come in and out. But then, they were also, it was very strict on who got to leave. And, like they would go, like, they would go alphabetically. So like A through D can leave on Monday to go out and get necessities and whatnot. And then like so forth throughout the week. But for the most part, if you didn't live there, then, they would check you at the point and, at the checkpoint, and you couldn't come in. Right now, I'm not really sure. I haven't really talked to anyone back home, in the last couple of weeks. So I'm not sure what's going on with vaccinations or anything. I do have some cousins that, they work in the medical field. So, and I've seen on their Facebook posts too. It's always a good way to keep track of people, right? So I know they've gotten vaccinated recently. My mom here in Chicago, she lives, just not too far from us. She got her first dose a couple weeks ago. So she's up for her next dose soon, which I'm just like, I'm so relieved because, she doesn't listen. She won't stay put. She wants to, she's worked so hard her whole life that it's hard for her to just stay in one place and stay inside and stay home and do nothing. But she goes out and she runs errands. She's going to like craft stores to get yarn so that she can knit hats and things like that. And but so, because of that, because she goes out so much like that, I worry about her. So I'm glad that she at least has that first dose.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And is your mom or your mom's side the Korean side?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking before the show. You were actually born in Korea, right?
Yeah. And I actually, if you want to pull up those photos, I have some photos that I would like to share and kind of talk a little bit about that.
I love old photos.
Yeah. So, so the photo that's on the top left, the family, the large family photo, you could see my harmony and haraboji, so my grandmother and grandfather. My harmony is wearing the yellow overcoat, and my mother is she's standing right next to her. And I believe in this particular photo, my mom was pregnant with me. So people always ask, well, how did your parents meet? And Roy, you were in Korea, so, being military, right? There's, army base there. My dad joined the army and, it was at the time when the Vietnam War was going on. But at the time he was lucky to avoid, being sent to Vietnam, and he was sent to Korea instead. And so that's where he met my mother. And so I was born in Korea. So you see these photos of my mother holding me and my baby picture there. I think I was maybe 3 months old at that time. So 3 months is like a significant time that many Koreans celebrate for with their babies, because it's just significant in that like if your baby can survive for like the first 100 days, then you'll be fine. And so that's why that kind of 3 month celebration is like it is significant in that way. And then the photo on the bottom right, that's my mom and I leaving Korea to come to America so that we could be with my dad. And I was 5 months old, and I think that was around Christmas in 1971. And so her entire family is there to see us off, which I can't imagine what that was like for my mother, because I think at the time she may have been 21 or 22, so she was very young, newborn baby, leaving her home country, coming to the United States, where like English was just such, like she couldn't speak English very well. It was, she had limited English, and so she was mostly Korean speaking. So I can't even imagine. I mean, I think of course, everyone thinks their mom is the strongest woman in the world, but I really think my mom is the strongest woman in the world to have been able to, you know, to do that. And partly is because she wanted me to grow up with my father. She wanted me to know who my dad was. And, you know, she wanted him very much to be a part of our lives.
So, so what does your mom think of your father and nativeness or indigeneity? I mean, what was that like from, I mean, I'm not quite even sure what the question is. It's just, you know, a Korean woman who'd never been to the United States probably had all sorts of stereotypes about what Native Americans are. And here she is. She met a wonderful Jemez man, and now is going back to the United States to be a part of his family, right?
Yeah. Well, we can go to the next slide. There's photos when we first did come to the United States. So I think for my mom, though, you know, Korea for the longest time was, you know, it was known as the hermit country. So at the time when she was growing up, my mom was born, I think, around the Korean War, or like right after the Korean War. So it was like around that time. And I don't think there was a lot of knowledge because Korea had been, you know, the hermit country. There wasn't a lot of knowledge of Western culture and you know, America, the United States. So I'm not sure she really, you know, I don't think she came here with any kind of idea of, you know, who Native people or how Native people were being stereotyped by, you know, by popular society in America at that time. And so her first experience with Native people was my dad's family, was my dad, and then my dad's family. And in Jemez, Pueblo. So this was the first time she came, and you see me on her back, and she's facing, she's facing toward my grandmother, my dad's mother, and his aunt is right behind me. And then that's my dad holding me on the bottom left. And then that's me with my grandmother. Just that was one of our many trips home. I remember coming off the Trailways bus wearing that little jumper. But, you know, my mom was actually, I think, you know, she's part of oral history with, you know, the elders from that time, because a lot of people remember my mom walking through Jemez, walking through the village, carrying me on her back. And so I still have people to this day when I go home, they'll just, you know, they always ask about my mom. And they're always like, oh, I remember when she used to carry you on her back and she used to walk through the village and we used to see her and she was always so nice and tell your mom I said hi. So she's part of that kind of, you know, that oral history among the older generation of people.
Wow. Wow. How wonderful. I can't imagine uprooting my life to that extent and coming to another country. And
well, I think that probably it wasn't a lot of culture shock because it was probably the cultures were probably a lot alike because the South Korean lifestyle back there. I mean, there's a lot of like rice farms and that around that area. You know, rice paddy. I obviously they call them rice farms, but I mean, large areas of farming area that look a lot like reservations. I mean, they're small little towns and then big farming areas and then small little towns and big farming areas all over that area in South Korea. I mean, probably wasn't too much culture shock.
Yeah, I think you're right, Roy. I think when my mom did have culture shock was when we first came
to the city.
it was actually Los Angeles because we flew into LA. And one of my aunties lived in LA with her family at the time, so they picked up my mom. But before she met them, You know, my mom was caring for me in the only way that she knew how. So she was breastfeeding me. So she was, you know, breastfeeding a young baby in the 70s when in the United States, they were telling women not to breastfeed their babies. So she's breastfeeding me. And, you know, she said that people would see her doing that and literally, like, you know, spit on her or, you know, just really, like, you know, treat her awfully for doing that. But, you know, she's like, how else am I supposed to feed you? You're a baby. That's
Right.
what breast milk is for. And so that, I know that was really difficult, but you're right. I think that once she did come to Jemez though, you know, it was probably a lot like, you know, the small village that she came from. And, you know, the farming is a farming village. And, I like to say that my mom assimilated into Jemez culture and never assimilated into American culture.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah, because those were beautiful. They reminded me of reservations, you know, when I was in South Korea and I was stationed out there because we did a lot of walking through Korea. And as we'd walk through these towns, I remember, you know, the dogs run around the streets and the farmers are out and the kids are playing everywhere. And, you know, it just had that kind of, you know, res small town feel, you know, and it reminded me of the res.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think she had a hard time. I know that she got along very well with some family members and she learned how to cook chili. So she made red chili stew. And there's this other story that she told me once that somebody taught her how to make like, you know, just like small pottery. And so she made some pottery and then, you know, like she painted them and everything. And then she actually sold them like on the side of the road. And so I always wonder, and this is before the Indian Arts and Crafts Act too and everything, right? So I always try to imagine, like, I wonder who bought those from her and I wonder where those are now. And did they even realize that, you know, that my mom was Korean? You know, it would be so amazing if I could, you know, track those down and find, you know, that pottery again.
So another reason why you must be careful out there. But that's such a wonderful story that she was able to do that. And should I keep showing more pictures?
Yeah, let's go on to the next slide.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my mouse to move over to my screen.
You need a pad. It sounds like you're running it across sandpaper or something.
Sorry about that.
So, yeah, so when we first came to America, we lived in Jemez for a little bit because my dad was still in the Army and he was stationed in Mississippi at the time. So he was just securing some housing so that we could move in with him there. And then once he was discharged from the Army, there's this trading school called Washburn Trading School here in Chicago. And there was a BIA office. And, you know, Chicago is one of the relocation cities. So I think, you know, maybe I never asked him and I don't have the chance now because he's passed on. But, you know, I wonder if just knowing that people had relocated here, there were some Jemez people living in Chicago at the time. You know, my parents decided, okay, we're going to move to Chicago. And so I was about 1.5, maybe 2. And so we moved to Chicago then and moved into the Logan Square area. And my dad went to Washburn Trading School where he learned how to be a cook. And he had worked in a kitchen his whole life. And my mother actually, because her education she was only educated up until 3rd grade. She was the oldest daughter in her family, so she had to quit school so she could help her mother watch all her younger siblings. So she cared for all her young siblings, but she learned how to cook. She learned how to do like so many things like sew and, you know, just care for family and to clean. And so the only job that she was able to get was as a custodial worker at one of the local newspaper companies, the Chicago Sun-Times at the time. But I just remember my mom, like, she was so proud of her work. And, you know, she took such pride in, you know, how clean her bathrooms were. And she would tell some horror stories too, of she had to clean up and everything. And I remember, and I feel ashamed about this, but, you know, when I was a teenager, I was ashamed to tell people what my mom did. You know, you know, I had friends whose parents were, you know, they went to college, they were educated, they had, you know, jobs that, you know, like I don't know what they were doing, but that none of them were cleaning bathrooms. So I just remember I was ashamed, and I would not tell people what my mom did. And I feel bad about that, because now I'm so proud of my mom, because she worked so hard, and she was so proud of it. And if anything, I think it just really instilled that how important work ethics are, and how important it is that no matter what it is you do your very best at it, and you be proud of that. And so I am so proud of my mom. You know, she took care of us. She provided for her family that way. She was able to send me to IA and send me, you know, to do things, and she took care of us. So nothing to be ashamed of that. And so then I make sure whenever I see people that, you know, like housekeeping and, you know, custodial workers, and I tell my daughter to, like, always thank them. You know, they are not beneath us. They are working so hard. They're cleaning after us. We're the dirty ones, and they're cleaning after us, and they're working so hard doing it. So we should always be grateful, and we should thank them, because I'm sure they take pride in their work too. But yeah, this is me, you know, growing up in an urban area, growing up in Logan Square, Chicago. So I'm a city girl. And the bottom photo is my parents as they were older, and that's maybe one of the last photos that I took of my dad, because after I had my daughter, she was about 2.5, and my dad had colon cancer, and he passed, you know, when she was 2.5. So that was back in 2014. So it's been that long since I've been without my dad.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's a huge loss. But what a wonderful family. You were an only child?
Yep. No brothers or sisters. My husband has no brothers and sisters, and our daughter has no brothers and sisters.
I knew we connected on something. I think that's part of it. So do you feel like you're more special than other people?
Could Shannon do?
Of course.
Shannon's like, what? Wait, you didn't realize the whole world revolves around me? It really does.
Hey, if you're an only child, man, it is something special. It is something special.
Well, I think partly that's why the pandemic was a breeze, because, you know, like I know how to just, you know, like I'm fine in my own solitude, and, you know, I'm a homebody. And so, like, this was just a breeze. It's like, it's going to be hard for me to go out once.
You're like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the only thing that I think I'm missing is just being able to travel and see people that I usually get to see around Indian country in person, and hugs. I miss
hugs and handshakes. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird. That's the hardest part.
Like, do you even do the elbow thing? Like, I don't even feel comfortable.
No,
doing the elbow thing.
It's like not like
you can't.
At first, it was like everybody was like reaching out and going, oh, oops, and then like fist bump, and then it got to elbow, and now it's just like you go to like fist. You don't. You like stay 6 feet away, and you go, hey. like it's gotten to where. So when I go out and I do these walks on these jobs, you know, we stay away from each other. We're 6 feet away. So when the end of the meeting's over, it's just like, okay, you know, the end of the you know, the goodbyes are like 6 feet away, and it's not even an attempted handshake or anything. It's just, okay, we'll see you next time. Get you on the phone, whatever, you know, let me get out of here. and get out of your 6 feet of space.
Yeah. The only thing that really is available is like you can kick somebody. Like you can, you know, like, hey, I can do it.
You can storm the Capitol together. You can all storm the Capitol together. That's one of the things.
I don't know where you came up with that one. All right, let's keep going on these.
That's like social activities that are going on these days.
The cultural activities.
Yeah.
Yes, insurgencies.
And actually, what you were saying too earlier about, you know, and I wish I remembered to add this photo, but there's a photo of me and my mom, and she's wearing a beaded medallion. And, you know, my parents just, you know, I'm so grateful that they gave me such strong roots. And, you know, I'm really, like, I'm so proud to be both Korean and Jemez. And my mom especially, she always made sure that she's like, you know, be proud that you're Native American. Always be proud of where your daddy came from and where your family comes from. And, you know, because you're the real American is, you know, what she would tell me. So, yeah, so we can go on to the next.
That's so sweet. Well,
and multiculturalism is also part of the Native experience, you know, being multicultural.
Right.
Look at these beautiful pictures.
Yeah. Yes. So now I'm a mom. My daughter is actually, she'll be 19 this March. So I can't believe how fast she grew and how that has happened. But, yeah, so she's, you know, I've tried to instill in her, you know, the same pride and, you know, in who she is. That's my husband there too, Chris Pappan. He's a well-known artist. He's Kanza, Osage, and Cheyenne River Lakota. He's Kanza enrolled. But, you know, so she's a mix of all of that, right? So she's Korean, Kanza, Osage, Cheyenne River Lakota, and then Chris is also, he has mixed European ancestry, so like Scottish, German, French, and you know, all of that.
Oh wow, she's got a little bit of everything.
And Pueblo, yes.
She's a lot of things, yeah. And so I made sure though, because you know, to enroll her back home, so she's enrolled in Jemez, and like I said, you know, all growing up before my dad passed away, you know, we took her to Jemez for the first time when she was like before she was 1, I think. And I mean, my dad was such a proud grandpa. He loved her so much. Like he would have moved mountains for her. And so when he passed, I was like, you know what? My dad's my Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's going to watch over us for a long time, and especially watch over her when he's up there. And so I make sure, you know, to take her back home so she stays connected to our family. She knows where, you know, where we're from on that side. And the first time that she danced, you know, I didn't make her dance. I didn't dance. I didn't really participate in ceremony when I was growing up. But, you know, we would go home and see ceremony, but I didn't participate. I took her home and I asked her, I said, oh, would you ever want to dance, you know, during feast day or something? And she's like, yeah. And so I made sure the following year, after she said yes, that, you know, we made it happen. And so she danced for her first time. And then she's danced many times after that too. And so she knows the importance of that. And she knows just, you know, how valuable that is to creating just who she is, you know, as a young Native woman. But she's also a ballet dancer. When she was 3.5, she was watching that show Arthur, and Arthur's little sister DW she was on her way to ballet class, and Jihei was watching TV, and she looked at me and she's like, Mama, I want to learn ballet. And I said, okay. And she stuck with it ever since. And every year I'd give her that opportunity to, you know, decide if she wanted to do something else. But every year she said, yep, sign me up for classes. And so she's the performing artist in our family. That's her thing. She's the dancer, and that's what she's going to college for right now, is she's studying dance. And I think she's in a BFA program.
Wow.
Very
That's
cool.
incredible. Is she there in Chicago with you?
No, we took her back to the dorms last weekend, so she's there now at school.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, I'm going to the next one. Do we have another one?
Yep, now we're going to get into, so this was family. Now we're getting into art. I think, was there another slide right before this one?
Let me check.
Don't click it again.
I'm having a little bit of computer.
Oh.
Stickiness. I'm not sure what's going on.
That's okay. We can go on to that next one, whatever the next one was. Yeah, because I know I had another slide that had some images, but that's okay. People can Google search my name and look up images, and you'll see like just a whole bunch of art by me. And so, yeah, so I went to school at IAIA in Santa Fe. I went there from 89 to 92, and that's where I met my husband, Chris Pappan. And, you know, at the time I was interested in photography, so I took a lot of photography. And then once we came back to Chicago, after we both graduated from IA, I went to, oh, too far. Too far.
Nope, I'm keep talking. I'm trying to get to.
That's okay. We could stay on this one. That's fine.
Okay.
And so we came to Chicago, and we went back to school. You know, I went to Columbia College, and he went to the School of the Art Institute. And so I carried on, you know, wanting to further my study in photography, and it was darkroom photography. So, you know, I really miss the darkroom. But it was also the time when, you know, I guess like digital imaging was becoming a thing. And so then that was a requirement. And so I had to take digital imaging courses. And that's kind of what took me into this direction in my art, because, you know, I don't have a dark room. I don't have access to a dark room, but I have a computer and I have access to the programming. And so my work it took that, you know, that turn toward digital. And so these two pieces, Prayers for Water and Prayers for Water, Jemez Feast Day version, because it has Kool-Aid stains on it. These are images of my daughter. So, you know, these two pieces come from that, you know, me being a mom, being so happy and proud of my daughter, you know, who has taken on, you know, bringing us forward, or, you know, taking us into the future, bringing us back to ceremony. And, you know, in these, I had somebody once that was critiquing, you know, this image of her because it's from behind. And they asked me, you know, why is she walking away from you? And I said, no, she's not walking away from me. She's leading me. I'm following her. She's leading me, and she's literally taking me to ceremony.
Wow.
I'm following her. So, and this is not during ceremony, because we're not allowed to take photos during the dances and, you know, during feast days or any other time. So this is not during, you know, the ceremony. But she is literally walking ahead of me to take me there. And so that's, you know, that's how these pieces were born. And so she's kind of become, you know, that, you know, a topic for me. But, you know, I try to incorporate like, you know, just some of our Asian, you know, heritage into this with just some like Asian elements. And also I'm influenced by my husband, who is a ledger artist. So I have, you know, ample access to lots and lots of ledger paper. And so it just became oh, are you not using that scrap piece of paper? Can I use that? And into like, oh, can I take a full sheet of that paper and use that for my work? And so I wanted to kind of combine that, like those, like antique ledger paper and do something that's, using modern technology. So, these are prints that went through an inkjet printer, and it's, digital work on this antique ledger paper from like the late 1800s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we had another artist on the show that was a ledger artist, and he did some ledger work. So I've been finding it very interesting. I didn't even know it was a thing until that. Now this is the second instance I've seen of it, so it's obviously it's popular.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a history, right, Deborah, about ledger art. Roy, are you aware?
Nope, I am not. I can educate me.
Well, how about you invite my husband Chris to do one of his talks Monday, and he could tell you some history and share his work too. So I'm going to.
That would be great. All right. Does he know what does he know you're putting him on the hook here?
No, my door is closed, so he can't hear me.
All right. You can show him later, unless he's listening in and he's going, oh man.
Well, give me the 5-minute elevator. Don't keep me hanging. Give me the 5-minute elevator pitch on what ledger art is.
Oh, I can't do it justice. Because I'm not a ledger artist. I'm not as well versed as he is. But the way that he kind of likes to describe it too is that, it's literally like, like the ledger art in the very beginning was, like prison art, because, it was when Native people were taken from, from their lands and put into prison. So I think, if I'm correct, and I don't want to like misrepresent, but if I'm correct, I think is it St. or in Florida, there was a encampment. But anyway, like the way that he describes it is that soldiers, they would have like these ledger books that they didn't need, and rather than discarding them, they would give them to the prisoners. And so, they would then use that paper as a substrate to tell the story, tell stories of, what their lives were like, what they were taken away from. There's a lot of, older ledger art that depict like battle scenes and things like that. So, it was a way of storytelling, but it all happened on ledger paper. And I think the ledger paper kind of gives it just that kind of added depth to the aesthetics of the imagery, and which I think is just it's like a really beautiful quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris can tell it better. There are other people that can tell it better. So please, for anyone out there that really,
I knew it had its origins in that it was given as a substrate because there was no other, and it was under stressful conditions. Oh, what do we have here?
Oh, that's not mine.
That's Shannon's.
Oh, wait, what happened?
That was like one of the old. That was like a test background picture or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Things are freaking out here. Are you? Can we go on to the next picture?
Yeah. Let's go on.
There we go.
Maybe. I don't know what's going on. Come on now. You can do it.
The raspberry Kool-Aid is cool though.
Yeah, the blue raspberry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was because Kool-Aid, when you come to feast day, in most of the pueblos, like the drink of choice is Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be able to use Kool-Aid as kind of like a coloring agent or something.
Bug juice.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, Chris and I we've had a long career in our art. You know, Chris is the more, you know, active artist in our family. He's very prolific. He has a lot of work everywhere, and you know, he's actually a full-time artist and has been for the past several years now. And you know, I get opportunities whenever whenever they just kind of come my way. I don't really look for them, but you know, people look for me. And this piece in particular, Live Long and Prosper, Spock Was a Half-Breed, was one of my very early digital pieces. And that's like my most popular piece right now. And that's been everywhere. That piece has a life of its own. It's timeless. It's traveled the entire world. It's gone to places that I have never been. And right now, at this very moment, this piece is at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago. And the photo of Chris and his piece, that is also at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago. So they have a show right now of about 70 plus local artists from Chicago, and it's called The Long Dream. And Chris, myself, and our very good friend Santiago X, we're the only 3 Native artists that are in this show. And I believe we're the only Native artists that have shown at the MCA in as far as I know, and as far as the history of the MCA. I know they have one piece in their collection by a Native artist, but it's, you know, I think it was from the 70s, and it was from an Alaska Native artist. So I think it's a piece made out of whalebone. So it's more of a contemporary traditional piece. So yeah, it's, you know, I hope I'm gonna put the MCA in a spot here and challenge them to keep going in bringing, you know, contemporary Native artists and invest in, you know, the local Chicago Native artists, you know, a lot more. And yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yes, I like that a lot.
Yeah, so now we're going into the work that I am currently doing at the Field Museum. So yeah, I make art whenever I can, whenever my brain is, you know, when there's nothing else going on in my head or in my life, and I can devote, you know, some of that creative energy into actually creating art. Right now, though, you know, I think just, you know, making sure that, you know, my daughter's taken care of while she's in college, and it's always, you know, just being a mom first. That's my priority. So, you know, sometimes, you know, as mothers know, sometimes we make sacrifices. And so my sacrifice has just been kind of putting my art on the back burner to take care of my daughter and our family. And so, yeah, I don't even know where to start with this story.
Well, yeah, well, let's hold on to that for a second. So there's been a couple of I've got to figure out what this is about. It says not the mural picture.
This is Jihei, my daughter.
I figured. Hello, Jihei.
She's calling me out and using, so she's watching. So hi, baby. Yeah, of course, you know, like, you know, you get upset when your parents post photos of you when you're a little kid, and you're like, oh great, the whole country is seeing this photo.
Oh, beautiful. Too bad you have a mother who's proud of you. and then JD, I wanted to bring this up, and I think JD asked this of an artist before about the conversations about the direction Native art is evolving and what that means regarding traditional versus individual. So, you know, Indians do an Indian art. What is Indian art? You know, is it Indian art just because an Indian's doing it, or does it have to be?
That's exactly it. and it always twists and modernizes and I mean, every true native artist that I've ever seen have put a twist on it, a time twist on it. Like, they don't just do traditional. Doesn't mean old. Traditional means native did it, and they put modern touches on all their artwork. I've noticed that most native artists do that.
Yeah, I mean, I have those conversations a lot with Chris and, very many other Native artist friends. And yeah, my definition for Native art is like, it's not confined to traditional or, even though I refer to myself as a contemporary Native artist, but, it's like, if a Native made it, it's Native. We define, we get to, we have agency over what Native art is, because we're making it. And so whether that be like a traditional art form, or something that is using, modern technology or contemporary materials, or, or using contemporary materials to make something in a traditional way. But, I think this is where museums kind of have a hand in like messing us up. Because there was that time, when they thought that we were all going to go extinct. So they just hoarded so many things and took so many things away from our people and our communities that ended up kind of, stagnating, how we create or what we create. And I mean, could you imagine, like, if none of our things were in a museum, like where we would be today in our art? If we had had that chance to just continue and have our art evolve and grow. And I think as artists, we're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to grow. We're supposed to, our art is supposed to just kind of change and morph and just become different things, because then when it stagnates, you kind of get stuck in this place that just, there's, you need to grow. We need to grow, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because this is kind of a perfect segue talking about this, and also talking about your work at the Field Museum. And what people call art. I think museums tend to call our sacred objects, our funerary objects, art, and sell them as such or display them as such. And so what is your opinion about that? I think you alluded to it.
Well, and I also think, who is the art for? Who defines, who defines that? Because I had to make this argument with somebody who was asking me about, the Mimbres collections. So, a lot of those were funerary items. They were items that were made for people that had passed on. And so these were, I think they can be viewed as art, but they're not art for us. They're art for those people that have passed on. They're art for them to take. They're art for and we can't take that away from them. So, I think that to me, the question is, like, who was the art made for? Who is it for to see? It's not for us to see.
Or for what purpose, right?
What purpose, exactly. And I think because, we want to lavish our, our deceased. We want to give them things that they can take with them, that they could, enjoy. And so why not create beautiful things for them to take, but also know that that's not for us then. Once we make it and we give it to them and they take it and they move on, that's for them. That's not for us to ever see. We should not see it.
And not all art was meant to be displayed, you know,
Right.
like sand painting, you know, they
Right.
can spend, you know, a day or 2 or 3 on a sand painting and then no one ever sees it.
Right, right. Or, I mean, if things were made artistically or artfully. But yeah, there's purpose for something, right? So, you know, like especially ceremonial items, you know, they're made beautifully, they're made artistically, but they're not for everyone. And they have a purpose. So yeah, I mean, these are conversations we have. Like when I'm in the institution, when I'm working at the museum, like my head is going all over the place on these thoughts.
Yeah. How long have you been at the field?
So I've been at the Field Museum since 2017, in April of 2017, and I started out as a volunteer. Prior to that, though, I say this there too, like I did not want to have anything to do ever with that museum. Because, you know, growing up in Chicago, going to the Field Museum on field trips, or my dad taking me like during the summer, you know, as Native people, we always want to go and see the, you know, the Native exhibits. And I just remember always feeling icky, you know, because I'm like, you know, I know what it means to be Native. None of this is telling me what it means. You know, it's like, I can't relate to this. And I do remember my dad saying one time, at the time, there was a mannequin that was dressed in, you know, men's Pueblo ceremonial clothing. And I remember my dad looking at something and saying, that doesn't look like, you know, it's from wherever it was identified to be from. And he's like, that looks like that should be from Jemez. And so right there, I was just like, wow, so they don't even know where things are from and they're missing things, right? And so then when I got older and then after I had my daughter, you know, I would buy museum memberships to like the Shed Aquarium, the Museum of Science and Industry, the planetarium, never the Field Museum. I never wanted to give my money. The only time that we would go there is if I had like a free pass from the library or, you know, a free ticket or something, and I would take her there, but we would see the dinosaurs. We would see, you know, the fossils and things like that. I rarely, if at all, took her into the Native halls because I didn't want her to have to experience what I experienced. And, you know, just going in there and listening to what people say, like the kinds of conversations non-Native people would have, you know, I mean, it was just awful. Like, you know, always talking about Native people in past tense, talking about Native people as if we just absolutely do not exist anymore. And so I didn't want my daughter to hear that. And it wasn't until I was working with the Title VII Indian Education Program that I met the curator, Alika Wali. And, you know, so we had a relationship because we were, you know, we were partnering with, you know, our program and the museum. I introduced her to my husband, Chris, and she, right after, like, bought 2 of his drawings to include in the Field Museum's collection, and then asked him if he wanted to have an exhibition at the Field Museum. And so, you know, Chris told me that, and we were like, I remember him telling me that, and we were both like, ew. Like, oh, okay. But then we thought, you know, we could really make a statement if we got in there and Chris, you know, could have his work in there and really just kind of create that dialogue, that much needed dialogue, you know, to just really emphasize how old and outdated their old exhibitions are. And so his exhibition actually ended up being an intervention in the hall itself. So he had, you know, contemporary works that were put on, you know, like transparent, like decal, like, you know, substrate, and they were put on the cases. They had like temporary wall spaces built to create, you know, like a gallery feel. So his, you know, two-dimensional works were hanging. There was a video installation and music so that, you know, when people were walking through the hall, they would just hear that music and that music was created by our friend Santiago X. Santiago X and Adam Sings in the Timber both helped with the video installation. So it was a, collaboration between, those artists. And so, yeah, it was just, yeah. And there it is. You can see that. And I made the video too. So we wanted to make sure that there were contemporary Native people in there to, to kind of bring back life and humanize the collection that was on display in there. And so then,
so this is on top of the display, the older display of collections that, how old is the museum? When did the museum start collecting Native items?
The museum started or it grew out of the Columbian the exposition, so the World's Fair of 1893 here in Chicago. And so the Field Museum has been around since about 1893. It moved into this location where it is now in the 20s, so I think 1921, so about 100 years ago. And so, yeah, and then this hall, when I was a child, I remember there being maybe 3 or 4 halls that were dedicated to Native American, displays. And then it kind of whittled down to just this one long hall. But a lot of these cases had been moved around, over about 70 years. So this entire hall had cases that hadn't been touched in about 70 years.
Hmm. Do they have a Caucasian exhibit there?
Nope.
I was just wondering if maybe they did. Cause you go in there and there's old guys in leopard skins hitting each other over the head with rocks or something. I've never seen one. I was just wondering if they had them anywhere.
It's just that old exhibit style with the little label. That's it. Look at these things that nothing that actually tells you anything about the people or the continuing cultures.
I say we lobby them for a Caucasian exhibit. Full representation.
So this is the work you're doing now, and it's been all over the news. The Field is redoing its Native exhibit. It's pulled in a lot of funding to be able to do that, right? So how should I keep going or?
Yeah, I mean, just a little to, and I think that because of Chris's exhibition in this space, it really made it obvious how old that hall was and how much it needed to change. And so even before Chris's exhibition opened, they were in process of raising funds to renovate the hall. But with Chris's exhibition, that fundraising, it accelerated. And so they were able to raise funds very quickly. And because I was there all the time, because we were taking people in to see his show, I was just like, you know what, just let me volunteer and I can do this as a volunteer. And then that volunteer position turned into a paid position once they got the green light to go ahead and start the renovation project. So then I officially became the community engagement coordinator. And so, a lot of my work is meeting with Native people, greeting them, arranging their visits to the museum, arranging their visits to connect with collections, and just spending the day with them and having conversations, taking them to other parts of the museum, having lunch, having coffee. And this part is what I enjoy the most is, being able to give access to Native community to use the space, to utilize the space in the Field Museum. And so these are a few projects that, they needed venues to have these events. And so Emily Johnson, who's a performance artist, she was in town in Chicago, and she was collaborating with some other artists, and they needed a space to have a quilting bee. And we had that space because, as you can see, this hall, the native hall, had been pretty much deinstalled. So there was a lot of space there for them to have a quilting bee, which I helped to organize. And, you know, anyone passing by, staff members, you know, museum goers, anyone could sit down and stop and sew a few squares together that would create this, you know, ginormous quilt. And then, you know, also working with filmmakers that, you know, wanted to use the space to create a documentary. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I love just being able to have that ability to share the space and indigenize the space by bringing Native people in to, you know, to be in that space.
Right, right. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. And here's some more.
Yeah, and then I think this is my last slide. And so again, you know, just making sure that there's always a Native presence. And so, you know, there was a mural project that we had my friend Thomas Breeze Marcus come in. He's a graffiti artist. He's Thano Atham from Phoenix. And we had him do a workshop with Native youth here in Chicago to create this mural. Because the hall was deinstalled and it was kind of in this like transitional, you know, time that there was nothing Native hanging in here or, you know, nothing on display, that, you know, we thought this would be really cool if we could have something contemporary, something new. And, you know, so this mural went up, and it just actually was deinstalled like last week. A couple weeks ago. So it had been up for well over a year. And now it's back in the community. So the museum funded that entire project and now gave the mural back to the community. And then the two photos on the bottom, again, that's Emily Johnson. Interventions are like the greatest way to try to, you know, implement change. And I remember when Emily first came to visit the museum, she's Yupik, and this hall, the Northwest Coast Alaska Native Hall, still has the E word on a lot of the labeling all around. And the first time she came and saw that, she was very hurt. She was so hurt by that, to see that word everywhere. And so, you know, there was an opportunity for her to come in and, you know, cover up that E word and then put up a statement that the museum noticed. So now we're in conversation with her for further intervention in that hall.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm it's very wonderful to hear that an institution that has played such a huge part in the theft of our cultural items, our sacred items, our burials, our burial belongings, is doing something to turn that around. But you know that there's still at least about 1,300 ancestors still in the basement there, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like, working at an institution who hasn't fulfilled all its NAGPRA obligations yet?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard.
So they're getting a lot of money, right? They're doing a lot of wonderful new things, right? But those 1,300 ancestors and many other items that the field hasn't. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. Maybe I am a little bit, Deborah. There's you know, there are repatriations the field has done where they've refused to give the funerary objects, and they've only returned the ancestors. You know, so there still seems to be this duality or schizophrenia from the field. On one hand, they're doing all this wonderful, great work. On the other hand, they're not being truthful, coming clean, doing their obligations,
fulfilling their obligations. Yeah.
Right. With Native people. So what is that like for you? to be in that institution where that's happening.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying that, you know, I don't feel like you're putting me on the spot. I completely understand where all of that is coming from, and you know, because one, I am a Native woman who happens to be working in the Field Museum, but I'm not the museum. I don't, you know, my priorities and who I feel that I'm accountable to is Native people. And so to hear that and to hear those numbers and to hear how Native people feel, you know, based on these facts, you know, that hurts. It hurts me as a Native person, not because I'm offended, you know, you know, feeling like it's, you know, being put on me, but it's like, I think it helps me because then I can think about, well, you know, how will this inform me and my work? What is it that I can do to change things, to make things better for Native people? And, you know, what kinds of conversations, who do I need to talk to? What do I need to advocate for on the inside to change those things, to make those things happen, to send ancestors back home? It is hard when I go in because, you know, not very many people will go into that building and will, you know, can say that, you know, I literally am coming into a place where my ancestors' bones are possibly in here. You know, I mean, they did a lot of digs early, you know, in the 1900s in the Southwest. My people are from the Southwest, so it's very likely that I literally have ancestors that are in that building. And so, you know, that's what kind of drives me to, you know, sometimes it's difficult to bring up things or have conversations with people because, you know, there's so much fragility. And so sometimes,
Fragility? Fragile.
And people take things personally, right? They think that if you're attacking the museum, you're attacking them, right? And so, you know, that makes it difficult because, you know, I'm also a sensitive person. I'm trying to be mindful not to hurt someone's feelings, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? God damn it. Sorry.
No, we can cuss on the show. It's okay.
Okay.
Forgot to tell you that. Yes.
My ancestors are here. You know, you don't have the right. I have the right. I have the right, and I should have the right to come to you and say these things, and you should be doing something about it. You know, but right now, as it is, you know, sometimes I feel powerless. I don't feel like, you know, I can get enough support as a Native woman in this space, and so, you know, I try by having conversations with people and, you know, creating those accomplices in other areas of the museum that, you know, maybe they're not Native, you know, they're white and they have privilege, and they should use that privilege then to also advocate for the same things that I'm advocating for. So that's why I like to meet with Native people. That's why I like to have conversations when they come to the museum, because we have conversations about these things. And that's what helps me. That's what helps me because I get into those spaces where I can have meetings with people, where I can hear what's going on. And then if I need to, I can bring the voice of, you know, the people that I've spoken to and their concerns, and I can bring those to the table. So by you sharing that with me, you know, that's something that I'm going to keep, you know, in the back of my head. And then when that moment comes up, I'm just, you know, I'm going to address that however I can. I
really like what Lance said in the chat room just a minute ago. He said, is there a way to replace the old pieces with art piece made for the museum by that tribe? Like a reciprocating type of, you know, the tribe actually.
We're having conversations. So we are working with a lot of collaborators, and basically it's, you know, you're not making those calls. It's the call of that community. And it's different, you know, from one community to the next. We are working with a lot of contemporary artists also. And, you know, everyone that we're collaborating with, like the first question they ask is like, does the Field Museum do repatriations? Are things going home? So like, I mean, Native people, everyone's asking, everyone, you know, so.
Yeah, and they should. And so what I
now we in
tend to
Shannon's
do,
wheelhouse.
what's that?
Now we in Shannon's wheelhouse.
Yeah, I tend to do a little homework on institutions to see how they
a little bit,
especially when my guest is from one of those institutions. So what I have here is that there's 1,306 ancestors and reportedly 70,000 tribal cultural objects. Let's see. The Andrew Mellon Foundation website reports the field secured a $700,000 grant in 2017 for the Hall of Native North American Reinstallation, the thing you were talking about. The National Science Foundation has granted the field more than $21 million between 2008 and 2020. The National NAGPRA program stated the field has received 28 NAGPRA grant awards since 1994, and that totals over $1 million. But the field has only repatriated 28% of the ancestors from their original collections in 30 years. And so, and with all that money coming in the door, they still haven't been able to accomplish those basic human rights that federal law mandates them to do. Instead, they're spending, they're spending money on wonderful, good work, but it's not built on a strong foundation if they haven't first taken care of their NAGPRA responsibilities, their human rights responsibilities to the ancestors and all those items that are in their collection. And so that's, I mean, to me, Deborah, it's like being in a hostile work environment. I mean, I'm not trying to create something for you, but like for me, I'd have real trouble being okay and working with that. And what I hear you saying is that you're doing your best to be there, to be a tool, to be helpful, and to do things that will hopefully support building relationship and educating the institution about the things that it needs to do and the way Indian country looks at it, right? I mean, I should have let you say that.
No, actually you hit everything on the nail. And I don't think that's any different for any other Native person working in a similar institution. I think they're all the same in that way. It is a hostile environment. It's violent. It's a violent place to be when, your own ancestors are in there, and the way in which how they got there, and how there were many things that were stolen. So yes, it's absolutely violent, and it is hostile. And, I think that's why this is a job that I love and hate. There are some things that I love about it. It's when I can engage with Native people, but what I hate about it is when those moments I'm not engaging with Native people. And, I feel though that, Native people have to be in this space because we have to keep tabs on what they're doing. We have to, if they have to know that we're watching so that they don't misstep, that they, hopefully continue to do better work. Are they there yet? No. I mean, sometimes I feel like we take 2 steps forward in doing something, but then like the tiniest little thing happens and we take 5 steps back. So there definitely needs to be so much more education, and not just by me. That's not my job, but I do it because, I have a colleague, Miranda Roberts. She and I, like, it's not our job to do that, but that's what we do. We're trying to educate all of our colleagues, and we're talking to people that we work with to create those accomplices and to have them have a better understanding, but it needs to go all the way to the top. It needs to go to the board. It needs to be like all the executives. You know, why aren't they in the spaces that we're in when we have these conversations? Why aren't they at ATOM? Why aren't they? I hope they're watching this. Are they watching this? If they're not, then I'm going to send them the video to watch this. You know, they need to be in these conversations, and they need to hear us saying this over and over again until it resonates, and then they actually do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. At our repatriation conference, did anyone from were there a few folks that got to come to the repatriation conference this year?
There was just one person from the Field Museum, but I don't recall anyone else. I don't recall seeing anyone else like in the chat or anything. So.
Right.
So Shannon, you said that they're supposed to be fulfilling a legal obligation, right?
Right.
And what is the I guess what am I trying to say? What is their time horizon for this? What is it? I mean, do they get to act as slowly as they want? Are they in violation of anything, or is it just drip, 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 and everything's okay? Is that how it works, or what's the malfunction here? 30 years of being told they're supposed to do something, and it's only, what did you say, 20% done?
They've only done, what did I say, 28%?
28%. They're close to 30% of completion of the 30-year obligation.
Right. And it sounds to me like, you know, they're able to get money coming in, and that they.
So is it a money thing that it takes to?
A lot of institutions say that it's money and resources, but they also times will point the finger at tribes too, because their tribes sometimes do not have the capacity to undertake consultation and or have any place to put their ancestors. So they may not have land or anything, but repatriation can occur. The process of repatriation can occur even if the physical repatriation process hasn't been able to. So you can legally take care of repatriation.
So you're saying that legally it hasn't even been completed for those ancestors that are still there.
No,
the 70% that are still there. So the legal process hasn't even completed.
Right. The majority of their ancestors, and they're not the only institution that's done this, but there are
of course.
Many of those bigger institutions like the Field have done it this way. There was a deadline. They were supposed to complete their inventories of ancestors by, I think it was 1995. And that was a lot of work to get done. But in order to do it, you have to consult with tribes to accomplish an inventory. So instead of doing that, many institutions just said all their ancestors were unidentifiable. And so we have all these ancestors, like at the Field, the majority, like 90 some odd percent, 95%, are culturally unidentified because the institution hasn't fulfilled its obligation to consult with tribes in its inventory process. So to me, yeah, that's a legal liability that the institution hasn't undertaken the process it's supposed to, and it bypassed that and just said, we'll call them all CY, culturally unidentifiable. Even though these are ancestors, they have geographic information and other information, including funerary objects with them. They can absolutely be affiliated with tribes. So this is, and it's not, like I said, it's not just the Field. It's like Harvard Peabody. It's like these big, Arizona State Museum, these big institutions.
Sounds like a conundrum.
Deborah's like,
so it's a process. It's a money / process / both sides of the fence having trouble figuring out what it is that they have, their obligation is to make this happen. Because I mean, the tribes, they have to come up with resources too in order to make this happen, right? I mean,
but the decision making happens with the museum. And many museums just kind of don't do it, don't make the decisions that they're supposed to. And then they leave the burden for the tribes. So now the tribes have to come back and show their burden of proof to get ancestors affiliated with them now, because the museum has decided they're going to call them CUI. So now the tribe has the burden of proving them wrong, which should be easy to do, but many institutions often use it as a process of delay and pulling sacred information from tribes that they shouldn't have.
So for a lack of a better term, and then this is, kind of, putting it in a
always like, oh shit, Shannon's talking legal shit again.
Well, but I'm saying it's maybe there needs to be an escrow type of situation happen here, where possession and everything leaves the museum, so that they're no longer in control of the situation, and that some type of a governing body presides over those remains, and at that point the tribes and the museums can get together. If the museums would just release liability to it, something like that can actually work with the tribes to get it done, then maybe that part of it can just go away, and it's not. It's obvious that the museums are more than likely sitting on their laurels or whatever, because, one thing, they don't want to give up their property. The other thing, they don't want to pay to have to go do the research and whatnot to make sure that property or those remains are given back to the proper peoples. So I understand that, but if it was taken off of their hands and put into an agency that was their sole purpose, to make sure that these remains were returned and these objects were returned to the rightful places, then maybe that would kind of take that situation, because basically they have custodial rights over those objects and people. So
or do they?
Well, when it comes to law, isn't possession part of the whole deal here, right?
You're talking about stolen property. So this property was never theirs to begin with. This property is stolen. It's looted. It's trafficked.
But that means that there has to be litigation done, even though there's laws in the books, like you said, that say they're supposed to, do something about it. There's just too much gray area for them to not do anything about it. There's nothing forcing their hand.
Right.
Because you've got that loophole where it's like, oh, well, now what we can do is we can throw it on the tribes, and the tribes ain't going to come back to us because they don't have the money, the resources, the people, the know-how, or anything to get it done. So we're just here to keep it sitting here.
Yeah. And add another thing on top of that is that tribes do not want to bring controversy and conflict.
Yeah, if they're
trying to bring home their ancestors, and they're trying to bring home their sacred objects. So it's they're
working with the government on other things like federal recognition or things like that.
So it's extremely complex issue. But
yes,
whose burden should this be?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it's all of our burden, is what it is. Bottom line, it's all of our burden. It's this nation's government, it's the tribal governments, it's the people like us that are involved, concerned, and it's also on the museums too. It's all of our issue. And the conversation has to be had, because we can't just say, oh, well, it's them, they've got to do it. And no, because everybody's going to try and find a loophole where they don't have to take accountability for it. Right. Everybody has to take accountability for this, have the conversation, and make something happen. Because I really don't think that, I don't think that there's value for the museum for remains to stay in storage for all of these years. All the research has been done that they've wanted to do or completed.
No, they've never done. That's the one thing. On one hand, they've never done any research on many of these.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So they're not going to. They're not going to.
Well, hold on. That's not true, because museums are now, because
DNA.
DNA research has really taken a different direction. They're starting to look at ancestral DNA to study without any consultation with tribes. And NAGPRA doesn't provide for that. So it's only the ethical researchers that are reaching out to the original nations and saying, is this okay to do? Is this something that you'd want us to do? So that's a huge concern for tribes, especially collections that are in any kind of research facilities.
Yep. It's a tough problem.
It's all about priorities too, and where institutions, where museums are prioritizing and what they're prioritizing, because it's all about making money.
And we always know where Native peoples end up on the priority list.
Right, exactly. And it can't just be the priority for one or two people. It's got to be priority for everyone involved. I mean, and yeah, it's like, it seems like sometimes institutions are more interested in what's going to bring in the big bucks, as opposed to, because whenever you're giving something away, right, you're not getting anything back. And it's not enough that it's just like, oh, we're doing the right thing. It's, it's how are we being rewarded? How are we bringing in more money into the institution? And so I think there needs to be just like reorganization of priorities, and there have to be more people that, I think there's just, I feel like there's not enough transparency into, because, I've had to go outside of the museum to learn about NAGPRA and how repatriation works and how it should work. And I learned a lot from Shannon. So I was so excited the first time I met Shannon. We were both the only two Native women that were invited to the symposium, and that's where we met. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, there's a Native woman. I better reach out to her. And so we had conversation and we just talked. And I just, just in that little, that short time, I learned so much from Shannon. And, we need to bring that education. I think we need to educate, the entire institution. We need to educate the public. Like, that would be so great if there was public outrage, if the public knew that the museum had, 1,300, ancestors, would the public be outraged by that? I think it's just, having that kind of publicity. Maybe that could be something that, that encourages, the museum or these institutions to do better work. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm just kind of, I don't know what I can do, what I should do, aside from, what I am capable of doing right now. And if I could bring these conversations into that space, we're not having the conversations in this space. We should have roundtable discussions, panel discussions, just listening sessions, let's bring a bunch of natives into the museum and just have the field museum listen to us.
Yeah, that would be great. Start having some,
just listen, right?
Some educational panels would be great. I mean, what would be really good is to do an online invite, because, right, I mean, obviously nothing's happening now, but have an online invite, in the public, where public can chat just like this show, and bring, 5 people from the museum, 5 people from Indian country, and let's have the conversation start, and continue it on, and get input from the chat rooms and from both sides of the story, and start to hash those things out so that a roadmap can be developed, so that, maybe we can get started on some of these things.
Yeah.
I like that idea, Roy. That's a good idea, Roy. It's a good idea. Set it up. Everybody set it up. Let's go. Set this up.
All right. I know that a friend of ours, Deborah, asked about your earrings earlier.
Yep.
Here we go.
All right. Let's
look. Yes, that's the thing, right? We're all about our earrings. These are by Molina Jo Parker. So I think she has a website, but I'm just gonna kind of hold this up close so you can get a better look.
Oh, cool.
Very nice. Very nice.
And the beaded hoops. So Molina Joe Parker.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you, Moena. Awesome. Yeah, mine, I got these because I really wanted some kind of roses. I don't know if but it's, you know, it's the shell that's carved into and it was I picked these up at a conference. It was a two-spirit artist, and I don't have his name with me. But
she does have a website, and she makes a lot. She does make some really nice earrings.
Oh, Roy's there you go, Roy. Buy me a present.
Yeah, I must have like 6 or 7 pairs by her. So I love her jewelry so much.
Paste that in the
paste
that in the chat room for folks. She really does have some nice stuff. I look at that.
Roy, where are your earrings?
What's that?
Where are your earrings, Roy?
You know, my holes. I'm in corporate America these days, and my holes have closed up from back in the days. But I used to wear them all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, corporate America. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, I like Deborah. I too have to, you know, fit in the whole deal. You know what I mean? I did do a. I was able to take a PowerPoint presentation the other day and incorporate a native story into it. So that was good.
That's very
Wowed the board. Very
good. We're so glad that you're appropriating native stories. And no, I'm kidding.
Well, I gave the proper the proper you know, shout out to where the story came from.
Yeah. Very cool.
The proper thing to do.
Yes.
So Deborah, what's what is this new year bringing to you and your family? What are you looking forward to? Any interesting plans or
getting out of quarantine? That's all of our.
I actually do. I got the okay from some folks that I'm working with to softly announce what we're working on. So it's always been my dream, mine and Chris's, you know, as artists, to have our own art space. Chicago has never really been, you know, a place where Native artists can come to and have gallery representation or be in a space where we could have proximity to each other. So Chicago's just never been supportive of Native artists. And so Chris and I had always had this dream that we would love to have our own art space where artists can get together and have studio spaces and, you know, like have working studios and gallery space to have shows. And, you know, the artists can show their own work, curate shows. We could, you know, work with other artists, bring Native artists into the city, and, you know, have a destination other than the Field Museum or, you know, and to have a destination for Native people to go to. So we are, you know, we are among an art collective or a collective of friends and other Native artists here in Chicago. We've kind of revisited this dream. The pandemic has kind of, you know, it brought us together because we were meeting week to week to just support each other, just to chat, just to, you know, laugh and whatnot. And so just slowly we started talking about this dream and this vision. And so I'm happy to say that we are on our way to open a Native art center or a Native art space here in Chicago that we want to call the Center for Native Futures. And we have seed funding to help make it possible. All we need is a physical space, but I think, you know, even during the pandemic, we're still in a pandemic for who knows how long. You know, I think we're just going to start planning like virtual programs and events. and work toward actually having a physical space. But yeah, I had to make sure, because we haven't announced this publicly yet. We're still, we're still kind of like, we're toward the end of our, planning stages for this, but I thought I can't pass this opportunity, to do this talk and not bring it up. So that's something to look out for this year.
Good,
oh my
good.
gosh. And when you have together and you're ready to announce, or you want to talk about it or share some shows or anything, please come on, you and your partners, and let's see it. Let's talk about it. Whatever way we can support you here, I hope we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love that. Yeah, thank you.
That is so
yeah, we're
cool.
excited. We're nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's exciting. It's something that is going to be so necessary for Chicago and for us as Native artists to have a space that we can come together and just, have this really kind of thriving, energetic space that, where we could just like motivate and encourage each other and just create, just make art.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I wish I was an artist. I wish I was.
You'll have to come and visit then when we have physical space.
Yes.
You're a legal artist.
Yes. Right. There is art to
Yes,
law.
exactly. That's what I was saying.
Okay. All right. That makes me feel a little better. Well, so where do you think we are on my? Did we miss anything that we need to talk about, Deborah? About did Roy? Did we miss anything? I'm
think
scouring my brain.
Deborah gave us the whole thing we went from Korea all the way to the art museum.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, I just, in what I do when I'm back at work, I encourage, Native people when they come to visit Chicago to reach out to me. And, I'm so happy. I would be so happy to have people come and visit me and spend a day with me at the Field Museum and go behind the scenes and reconnect with ancestors in collections. And, our relatives that are down there. And, and the exhibition is actually, the new exhibition is supposed to open, I believe, in November of this year. And so, I think that hopefully by then it'll be safe to travel and people will be coming to visit. But even if it's not to visit the Field Museum, which is fine with me, I'm always happy to meet Native people and, have lunch or coffee somewhere that's not the museum too. So,
well, yeah. DEBRA YEPA-PAPPAN is on Facebook. You can find her there, and you can find her at the Field Museum too. I think her staff photo is there and a little bit of her bio. So Deborah is easy to find, and I can't wait to see what's out there for your daughter. And we've got to talk to your husband. So we've got a lot of work to do here, Deborah. We've got, and I also want to know, and I want to share with everyone, one thing that we tell a lot of people at the association, if they're not sure what to do on these repatriation issues, because if you're attending a school, if you go to a museum a lot, or about a museum that has items, then you can say something. You can go to the newspaper. You can see something, say something. You can call the association. We can help you pull together information that may be helpful to you to be an advocate regarding that institution. The National NAGPRA program is a phone call away, and they're always helpful as far as making sure that museums are doing what they're supposed to be doing under the law, for willing parties at least. So, raise your voice, talk to the museum director, talk to the dean of a university, and tell them you want to make sure they're they're in compliance with NAGPRA.
I got the perfect slogan for this. Don't wait, repatriate.
Don't wait.
T-shirt. I will wear that to work every day when I go back.
There you go. Don't wait, repatriate.
Don't wait. Oh my gosh. All right. I've been trying to find, I've been trying to find like a meaningful like hashtag, or there's some really great artists out there that are doing some strong social movement art and merch, right? And I've been like, well, we've got to do something with repatriation, and we've got to create some kind of strong image and phrase. And I don't know what that is yet. I don't know if "Don't Wait, Repatriate" is.
I like it. It's like it's strong. Don't wait, repatriate.
Shannon Martin's on.
It's almost see it everywhere now. Roy did it. That's it.
Don't wait, repatriate.
That's it. That's the new slogan. We're gonna put.
So what do you all think in the chat room? Don't wait, repatriate. Should we take that on the road?
He gave me thumbs up. He said, "That's it, man."
Okay.
Gave me a secret handshake and everything. Lance gave me a secret handshake, so it's good.
So maybe the art collective, Deborah, wants to work on some really good artwork that'll help us.
Let us know. I'll pass it along and see.
Very good.
All right, Deborah. Well, thanks for coming. We appreciated you and had a great time, and it sounds like we got some more talking to do.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm always up for another chat, and this was great. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my background and where I'm from and my art and where I'm at now and where we're going. So it's always past, present, future, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was a blast.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Deborah.
All right, we'll see you, Deborah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Oh,
you cut her off right in the middle of it.
She was saying things. I did. I'm sorry.
You should bring her back and apologize.
Okay, sorry for cutting off in the middle of your goodbye.
It's a good thing I wasn't picking my nose in that.
I wait. I like trying to catch people.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.
All right, Deborah Yepa-PAPPAN. Bye-bye.
Deborah Yepa-PAPPAN.
Yepa-PAPPAN. I love that. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to go tell my kids who I just met with.
Deborah Yepa-PAPPAN.
Yepa-PAPPAN. Yep.
Excellent.
Okay. Don't wait, repatriate. Don't wait, repatriate. I like that. I'm all over that. That's strong. Strong.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Well,
all right, sis.
It's been a pleasure, Roy. Thank you so much. I'm over here. Look over here. I'm over here.
I see you.
We're in different places. I don't know if you're a regular watcher of the show. Usually I'm on the other place, right?
Yeah. Like this. Well, the only reason that I was over here is because you don't like my microphone being in your face, but I switched the microphone over and I was able to put it on a stand where I can get it out of the way completely, and here we are.
Thank you so much, Roy. Yes, I can. How you doing? All right.
I'm good.
Glad to have you. We missed you last week.
Yes.
But had fun without you.
I know you did.
Next week, I think we have another artist.
Wow.
So
like 2 in a row.
You know why we have all these artists coming up is because our wonderful public affairs and outreach coordinator, River Kerstetter, who was on with us last week.
Yes. River.
She is pulling a lot of
Rivers and artists.
So hopefully we'll fix that imbalance of lawyers and try to balance it out with people who are, artful, artistic, and less lawyers. So we'll get it balanced in here for you, Roy.
All right. Okay, Shannon. Well,
okay.
Who are we brought by?
Why don't you say it?
Why do I have to say it? This is that because you're the president of the association.
I'm not. He still doesn't even know my title. Okay, so I want to thank all of you in the chat room. Come on, women! Don't you love men? They can't
you're the HMFIC. There you go.
I'm what?
The HMFIC.
What does that stand for?
Look it up.
HMFIC. Somebody tell me, hurry, quick. What does HMFIC stand for? Okay. And if there's a curse word in it, all the better. We didn't do enough cursing tonight. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us tonight and putting up with our whatever this is. And let's see, this is brought to you by the Association on American Indian Affairs, the oldest nonprofit serving Indian country, of which I am the executive director. The ED. And next week we'll have Ryan Young, who's also an amazing two-spirit artist, who will be with us. And we really want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please, we're begging you. And then I've got some ideas for giveaways and things like that we want to do. Nice. We're in process trying to figure out how to do that so that it'll work and be fun. And Roy, maybe you can help me do that.
Yep. Good stuff.
And we got all sorts of stuff happening. So more soon, and I'll shut up so we can get off.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week on Red Hook Talk.
Okay. Thanks, y'all. Yeah, Koki.
Bye-bye.
Bye.